Everyone, welcome to new Flute questions video. Today we have as a guest Professor Nicole Esposito, and I'm very happy, and it's for me a pleasure to speak again with her. So let's see if she's around and I can add her to the festival. Sorry, because I read some people not to the festival but to the conversation. So. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to add Nicole and we can start. That's it. Hello.
Hi, Frederic. How are you?
Fine, and how are you?
Great, thank you.
It's a pleasure to see you and to speak with you again.
Thank you. You too, as always.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure. So, how are you doing with all the situation since last time we spoke?
Good, good. I mean, the weather is getting a little nicer. As you can see, there's some sunshine behind me. So that's helps things a little bit. So you can at least go outside and get some fresh air. And well, the vaccines are making a lot of progress in the U.S. I don't have one yet, but it's going. So, you know, we are happy about that.
Yeah, maybe you are faster than in Europe, no? With that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they are working hard. They just approved another Johnson & Johnson. So now there are three vaccines that are in the market. So hopefully that will continue to keep things going, and then we can, you know, see each other in person.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah, and the good thing is always, well, we will speak about all these things. The good thing is to have this online tool together with our normal lives. That's the good thing, so that we don't have to use always the online, but we can combine. No?
We can combine them. That's right.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So yes, here also nice. It's a little bit nicer weather too. It helps. And let's see, little by little. Let's hope that in summer things are a little bit more, let's say, easy for the performance world. So let's hope.
We hope.
So I would like to tell all of you that you are hearing that this is a new format. That it is the second time I'm doing. First time I did with Eric Flute, a very interesting conversation, and today I'm doing that with Nicole. Also, I'm very happy. And this format, it's for you, so it's for the audience. So you can really ask us your questions. So hi everyone, and we will be here for around an hour, and we will be here to answer your questions. They say, ella habla español. Yes,
hablo español, sí.
Ella habla español. Si queréis preguntar en español, no hay problema, que no sea el problema el idioma. Podéis preguntar en español, das ist möglich auf Deutsch auch. Es ist kein Problem, ich werde die Übersetzung machen. Es no hay problema. Portuguese, okay. You can speak in all the languages that maybe we know. And don't make me speak in French, please. But anyway, if you want to make the question in French, you can do. I will understand. We will understand. Yeah. So maybe the answer would be funny, but you can speak in all the languages. Podéis preguntar el idioma que queráis, okay? Estamos aquí para vosotros.
Muy bien.
So until we have any question, that I know that sometimes people is shy with that.
Somebody wrote to me a question.
Great. Well,
asked about why physical balance was important when playing the flute. Maybe they saw me standing on a chair, and I had a few questions why I was doing that. You know.
Great.
The thing about physical balance is important in anything in life, you know, whether it be your diet, your sleep, we need balance. Balance is like the relationships is life is about balance. So
totally. Today I was today speaking about the same. I was in the park with my daughter, and I was speaking with my wife, and I was saying exactly the same sentence. It's like, for me, life is about balance, finding a right balance. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's complicated to know what is the right balance, but it's about that. So please.
Yeah. So I mean, physical balance, I mean, is everything for me in this flute, but physical, also mental balance, because mental balance is related to your physical balance. Also, if you have some mental tension, you will also have physical tension, you know, so everything is about balance. So it's kind of, I don't think you need to say more why it's important, because it's just important for everything in life, you know. So if one thing is working too hard, then something else isn't working enough, or if something else isn't working enough, whether it be your air, then your embouchure isn't doing too much work or whatever. So it's balance is the key.
For me, a right feeling about balance applied to the flute it's like applied to life in general. It's like when you are in balance, let's say, and it's in a moment that you are not thinking about any topic. So if your life is in a good balance, let's say you are not thinking too much about your professional life or about your incomes or about your relationships or about, because you are not thinking in fact in nothing, because you are just enjoying them. You are
Exactly.
enjoying things. And with the flute, it's exactly the same for me. If I'm thinking about too much about the embouchure, it means that I have some problem with that. So I will go to work that. And if I'm thinking too much about the air, it's because, you know, and it's a little bit this. It's what I think. So it's very difficult to speak in general because it's a very concrete topic, and it happens to us a lot of times every day. We can be out of balance. It happens. So
Absolutely.
we need to listen ourselves and see what's not working. So look, there are some questions. People, thanks, gracias por preguntar. So first one, Agnus Flores, she asked that in Spanish. Is ¿cuál es tu rutina para calentamiento o empezar tu día tocando? You understand. So what is your routine to warm up and to start your day playing?
No tengo.
Okay.
No tengo una rutina. No, in these days I don't have any routine. Basically, I mean, this year has been a very special year. And look, I've spent my entire life dedicated to the fundamental aspects of playing the flute. This year I sort of took a different approach in that I had a little bit more time to really just enjoy playing the flute. And so I just enjoyed playing the flute, and the enjoyment of doing it is my warm up, you know. And since I spent my whole life understanding how I play, then I can afford to do that right now. Now, of course, there are days I might play some scales or exercises and that thing, but I do think in general it depends on what, you know, stage you are in your development. But I mean, I don't see like daily exercises, whether it be scales or arpeggios or whatever, sound, sonority, as warm up. That to me, daily exercise, you're getting ready to play for the rest of your life, you know. So so that's why I don't have to warm up so much, I think, you know, because I when I play, my muscles understand what to do, and I'm not using them so much actually that they need to be like in such form, you know, because I hope that I have balance, that everything is working appropriately. So it's kind of a long-term and short-term question, you know. Yes, you should maybe do some things, you know, if you're a less experienced player, to warm up every day. But more important, I think, also warm up your spirit, like make sure you're in the right mindset to work and to think about what you're doing and to discover new things in your practice.
I totally agree with you. I think that this question is very, very interesting. And when people, as Nicole, answer them very honestly, it's also a very interesting answer, because I think that warming up, first of all, it's something very personal. And secondly, it's what we were speaking before about the balance. It should be corresponding with what you need. And there is some sentence that my former teacher, and that I admire a lot, Felix Rengli, he said like the difference between an amateur or a student and a professional is that a professional can take the flute and he or she will always play in a very good level. And maybe it's not the best day, but it will always sound in a minimum. Yes. And this, I totally agree. And I was not understanding so much when I was myself a student. And at that point, I really needed to do a lot of more things to have like my, let's say, my standard sound, or my, I don't know, to have my muscles ready, whatever, my embouchure or my air column or whatever. But little by little, I started to have it very like internalized, and then it's different. I mean, I just always, in all the videos I'm doing, I'm always speaking about feelings. So yeah. If just I have like my natural feeling of playing and that's working, then I don't worry too much. Of course, as Nicole said, I have a lot of, I can be speaking about that for 2 hours, about what exercises I can do to warm up and to find my feelings. But it's not that I'm doing a routine. It depends, because some days I maybe need more control in the embouchure, and some days I need to just blow more. So it depends.
Yeah. Again, I think it comes down to balance. You know, some days you might be feeling like you're being forcing or something, and then you go, okay, am I feeling like that in general? You know, maybe has nothing to do with the flute. You know, maybe you're in a aggressive mood or something is wrong, or, you know, sometimes that happens, you know. So, you know, in terms of actually like my warm up, what I do is something like, okay, then I say, okay, my flute still works, and that's
Yes,
so,
I agree. I agree. I agree.
so yes, I mean, I think I agree with everything you say. And when you're a student, of course, you have to really spend time understand, not just doing the technique, you know, because
Yeah,
if
that's
you
it.
do it every day, you are preparing your muscles. But after a while, if you don't do that, your muscles forget, and then you don't understand how to get the technique anymore.
Yes.
So for me, it's all about understanding what's happening rather than just doing.
Yes, I totally agree about this with this last point. I think understanding it's basic. Yes, and yes, for instance, in my case, just of course, it's what Nicole and me we can be speaking for really 2 hours about warming up possibilities because she will have a lot of possibilities to offer her students, and I can do, of course. I mean, because but those are tools. And it doesn't mean that you need to use all the tools you have. So maybe if you have some furniture at your home that needs to be repaired, you are not going to take all the tools you have just for one, you know, so one little thing. You just go for the concrete one you need. So it's the same little bit. In my case, it's simply but it's totally personal. I really need to take the flute.
I also, another thing that I think, I was talking to my students about this, you know, we have all these books, of course, Stefan Gobert, right, or whatever. They're all wonderful. We should use them all. Moise, there's no such thing as a bad book. You know, they're all great tools to use. I also think of, you know, the time when these books they're very long, you know, they are if you play the whole exercise, it would take hours. And I do think we have to pay attention, for the good or the bad, that our attention spans as human beings have changed since times of when these books were written, you know?
Yeah.
And because of how quick we get information now, look, we can connect, you know, you're in Basel, I'm here in the US, we can connect, we can get information, we can share things. So I think that in some cases, it's better for the better or the worse, whether you like it or not, that's one thing, but that's the case right now. It's better to take one of those exercises and really focus in on a small point of it. And even if it's just, you put the timer for 10 minutes and you really, really work on some aspect, rather than play pages and pages and pages of something and your mind is going everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that this let's say routine of having, like, let's say I do this and then I do the other thing, I did it a lot. And I think it's very important to build up your, let's say, when you're a student, but also you have to be very analytical of what you need more again, because I don't know if you can play very well G major, maybe go to play another tonality, you know, and focus. I was also doing that because I had problems in other tonalities with some articulation, so I was focusing on that always. I was always knowing what was a little bit not so good, so then I was focusing in that, and we have all the amazing tools. And about warming up, just the last thing that I can say is that in my case, I just need to play something as you, Nicole, just played some notes, and she was like, okay, I know it works. So in my case, it's the same, but I need to just check that it sounds centered and that I can blow. It's simply this. So if I do, and I can do this, then it's okay, I can play. And if I can do like, that's it. If I can do these two things, then I feel sure. Then I can go, I can play, let's say. Even, and then if it's not working, then I have a lot of tools to see.
Yeah, and I always, one thing, just to last about this, I always try to tell my students is, if you make a sound that you don't like, keep making it, because that's the only way you're going to understand what you don't really like about it. Because most of the time, I think students, when they practice, they go, okay, I want to play, yeah, centered, perfect, and oh, no, bad. No, not good.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
try again. And then they don't even really know what they're doing or trying to even get. So, you know, if you make a bad sound, then just keep making it and listen and let your ear make the adjustments that are necessary, rather than just rejecting it all the time. Because then they normally do it 4 times bad, 1 time good, and then move on. So actually they practice the bad more than the good, you know, so this is often an issue.
That's learning from the mistakes and then trying to save the result we want. That's very interesting. Yeah. So we go on because there are more questions. So
Sure.
we have, I would like to know about breathing and body resonance, Salpar 95. So what do you have to say about that?
That's a wonderful question. I mean, I think flute players like to really overcomplicate the breathing process. You know, we are expert breathers as human beings. We know exactly what to do. And look, the flute is just like a microphone on our face, you know. So I really believe the sound is so dependent on the body's natural resonances. And that is the sound. The air is what then transmits the sound into the flute.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that the flute takes a tremendous amount of air. I believe that it's a consistent amount of air to deliver the changes of resonance that we make in the body. So for me, it's actually more about resonance than it is about air, though air is a really important factor in that it has to be continually delivering what we are doing to the flute.
Yes, I basically agree with Nicole on that point. Basically, if I added something, would be adding the same, the same. Yes, it's totally this. I think that basically something interesting is what you said about that we don't need so much air for playing the flute. So maybe we need to play about the amount, but not how to say. We don't need. I think that sometimes we overblow.
Oh, absolutely. Well, look, I always ask the question, like, why do you breathe when you speak? And people are kind of like thinking like they don't really know, because of course you don't know, because speaking is an intuitive process that you do because you're a baby. You see mama, dada, you do it and you start talking and that's it. So you don't really think about it. So when we play the flute, it's not an intuitive process anymore because we're adding something to our body. But when we speak, we never think, okay, now I'm going to say 43 words, so I need to take this much air. Like that is not what happens. In fact, I'm speaking right now and I didn't even really take a breath and I can continue speaking. Look, I'm adding more resonance, getting don't need a breath. It's all fine. See, I still haven't breathed. And then when I can't anymore, I just release and the air goes in. That's it.
That's
so
it.
actually, I think it's the opposite process of what we kind of think, that we are expiring air to the flute. I actually think that we want to stay inspired with the air as we play, and then when we can't, we release, and then the air recycles itself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And then yes, I think that Nicole said something very, very interesting about that. It's like breathing is like breathing in life. It's just like being relaxed. It's like a release, like that's it. And it should be relaxed. It should not, because it's something that we can hear very, very clear, no, with a lot of students when they have this kind of blocked breathing, this kind of and then of course the sound you're going to produce later will be also. It's this.
Or so they try too hard to get the air. I just said, imagine if you're standing in water, you just open your mouth and the water goes in. You don't have to, you know, search for it. You know, it's there. You know, air is everywhere. You don't have to try so hard. You know.
Yeah, totally. I was speaking also when I spoke in this colloquium with Felix Rengli, and he said something very interesting that I was always thinking as his student, and now I'm developing even more. And it's like he says always, like when we breathe, even when we speak, no, and there was a moment that we like block the air before speaking. So, and then when we start to speak, it's like a release. So we are never attacking the note. It's not ta. It's like
no, not at all.
And then it's like the sound starts also as a release. So that's for me very important as a feeling with the breathing. It's like we breathe relaxed. There is one little moment that we control the air because we are, but naturally like doing that, and then we just release that in the mood that we want to do. If it's we do it with also more pressure, but if it's relaxed, then we just release. And enjoying this, it's quite important, I think, for the attacks. No?
And it's the same thing with ending the note too. Like if you're speaking and you la la la,
yes.
I still have my support. You know, it's not that you go and you shut down the process. You just take the, you know, take the sound away, but you're still actually making the sound inside the body, you know, in terms of the preparation of the sound.
Totally, I totally agree. And then there is another thing, you know, I don't know if you read that. There is Eric shared that today in Instagram. I thought very interesting, like a blog, an article speaking about playing Debussy, Prélude à l'après-midi d'enfant, everything in one breath, which is like something like very scary sometimes, or what. I have to say that I personally don't find it, let's say, a need, because I like to experiment more with the colors.
Yeah, it's
For
much
me
more
that's
fun.
more important, and then than making that in a breath. I don't, it's, I will not play that in a performance like that. But I was reading, I found interesting because, and it has to see with this topic, because if you want to do that in a breath, it's possible too, but of course maybe you sacrifice a little bit the amount of color, the this kind of because that needs air, no? But anyway, if you can play, of course, with different kind of smaller colors maybe, but it's everything about how you use the air. It's
Yeah,
not so much about how you breathe, that also you need
no,
to breathe big, of
absolutely.
course, but it's not so much about the breathing, but it's about the use of the air. And I was practicing that, and maybe I will do a video, I will show in a video or something, I will see, because it's, I don't know, but I was like achieving to do that, and it's like I needed to study about the sound. So if I play normal, I will do like, but with this kind of version, I need to go. And then like this, it's a different kind of color, but then you save much more air if you want
Yeah.
to play very long. So it's, again, it's about that. It's about how do you use the air, no?
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of resonances too, I mean, sometimes we might want like in the mouth, like especially in the C sharp, you know, because it's it can be sharp and everything. You might want a more like open, you know, color, something like that. But what I do to help not have too much air come out is I focus on my nose a little bit.
Yes,
You know?
nice. Yes,
And then you can get an open sound, but it's also more concrete in the
yes.
piano, you know,
It's
more
very
focused
interesting.
that way. Yeah.
It's very interesting because, in fact, you are doing with your body, you are doing, let's say, what will be the opposite of, I mean, the note not to be sharp, but
Uh-huh.
then you do, it's very interesting. But this for me, these kind of details come from the ear always.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
is,
And I think honestly, like, you know, you speak several languages, I speak several languages. So I think people that do speak more languages, they can find these like flexibilities in the
yeah,
sound because, like, for example, Portuguese, you have a more like nasal
yeah,
sometimes, or, you know, German, of course, the articulation is very useful for this kind of clarity. And so, I mean, languages, again, just having an ear for that helps, I think, to get more sensibilities inside the sound itself.
totally. In fact, with Impressionist music, with French music, I see totally a relationship
Oh,
with the French language. Always,
absolutely.
always, always. I find that with the vowels, especially.
Hmm.
No, it's very clear. I think it's very interesting that, especially for flute players, when we have to, I don't know. This is like.
Yeah.
This is very interesting because we need to be able to do ooh,
Uh-huh. No, absolutely. You know, also like even the like I joke sometimes about the expression. You know, French is more like we no no no, more decisive. You know, and I think even the way using like the vibrato or the expression like. Like something
Yeah,
like this, where you're
yeah,
just kind of
great.
using like small waves, you know, and French composers always seem to be obsessed with waves of the sea, anyhow.
Yeah, they like the sea. Yes,
Yes.
they like,
So, you know, just having that kind of playing with the resonance and having movement in the tone. I'm actually not really using a vibrato, but it sounds like vibrato, you know?
yeah. Yeah, but I totally, and I also, in addition, I can really hear that you're doing oh, oh, oh,
Hmm.
this kind of
Yeah.
oh. It's not oh, it's oh,
No.
which is different. Yes.
Yes, where British sound might, like British English is a little bit more like in here, you know, a little lower. So has a
Yeah,
little more of that color naturally, you know.
yeah, yeah. Great. It's very interesting topic. I really agree with that, and especially with Spanish speakers students. Sometimes I have, hey, maybe you need to also do, even if you don't speak, but like
Hmm.
these kind of differences are interesting when playing also.
Yeah, you know, I think also because this is another problem. I think of how we see the flute, because the flute sits here on our face, and we think we have to, you know, have air to the flute. So we kind of feel like our body stops here. But
Hmm.
all we can get so many sounds and resonances in our head, you know, all of these things
Hmm.
we're talking about, the nose, the mouth, you know. So we have to remember that that's a huge part of producing the sound, you
Yes.
know. It's not only the support from the body, which of course is very important as well.
Yeah, totally. With that, it's always, it can seem like a, like, let's say like a cliche, but it's like about singing, no? But I think it's really very useful.
Well,
I think
yes,
it's
but I mean, we have no other thing that produces the sound. We don't have a reed. We don't buzz
yeah,
into a mouthpiece. It's really just a simple hole, you know. And then
yes,
we aim in that, and that's it. So it's I don't think you. For me, it's exactly singing or speaking. That's why,
yes.
again, going back to the warming up, what I try to do is be also more conscious of what I'm doing when I'm not playing the flute in terms of how I
Hmm.
do things. And then everything is going together. Again, everything is one thing. So when I play
Hmm.
flute, like me talking to you, it's this, I feel like it's the same. It's
Yes.
not like an extra thing that I'm doing. It's just me, you
Well,
know?
and in fact, connecting that with that, it's very interesting also for the expression. That's
Yeah.
also very interesting because, yeah, like, okay, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? No, and then it's like you play the
Exactly.
phrase also with
Well,
these nuances, no?
going back to the breathing, you know, breathing also depends on the emotion. So if you're going to say
Yeah.
like, "Oh, sweetie, I love you," you know, you're breathing completely differently than if you say, "No, I don't want to," you know.
Mm.
And in fact, you said that moment, you actually first you locate in your body the resonance based on the emotion. You're not realizing you're doing this, but and then you hold the breath and then you release it, just like you were
That's it.
saying. I mean, that's
Great.
exactly what. Yeah.
And yeah, totally. And about, it's very interesting. We can be speaking with a question for 40 minutes. No, but it's great. But and also about the breathing, it's don't we should not forget, as Nicole said, that the breathing has a very important musical role. Well, in fact,
Mhm.
it's crucial because it's, for instance, there is an example I always find very interesting in Series by Debussy. We have these printed readings.
Mhm.
They could not. I mean, it's not needed that they are there. It could be
Mhm.
like Bach or other pieces that there are no breathing markings, no? But for instance, when we arrive to this part, this, when we do this, it's like, for me, it's very clear that it's like,
Yeah.
it's like someone who is like a lamentation. It's like
Mhm.
something sad, like, and we need to also, with the breathing, it's very easy then to also find like the, I mean, so
Yeah.
let's use that.
I think that's why people have problems with breathing. They don't correspond it to what they're about to say. I mean, you have to understand what you're going to say, and then you prepare it with the breath. And people make a breath, and then they have no idea what they're going to say, and then they wonder why it's not working. So, you know, so
Totally, totally. In fact, when I coach, like, let's say, young students from under 18 and they're in an orchestra, for instance, for the first time, and I teach like a section, something like this, that I love. By the way, it's very very interesting. But the first thing that you have to speak it's about that is like connecting the air with what you're going to do, and also for showing people what you're going to play. Like,
yeah.
boom, no, this is very clear for everyone to come together, no, like.
Yes, I mean, also the tempo should be related because I mean, it's like if you're a conductor, you don't give an upbeat like if the
No,
tempo is
that's
like this, so
totally.
it has to be corresponded. And actually, I think that's very important for something like an orchestral audition that's behind the screen. For example, the opening of Beethoven Leonore Overture. If you don't breathe in the tempo at the beginning, how are they going to know what your tempo is? And then they're counting
Yes.
one thing, and then you're counting another. So sometimes it's okay to hear the breath too, because
Yes.
that's the indication of the tempo, and that gets people on the same page of you. I don't understand this, like, you should never hear breathing. It's like, well, you hear people breathe when they're living. Why not when playing the flute? I understand you don't want to, like in the
Yes.
middle of
Yes.
the phrase kind of thing, but this idea that you can never hear the breath is not a really practical one for me.
Yes. Yes. I think that again about, for instance, this DVC e Prelude all'Après-midi d'un phone, no? For me, it's clear that it's for me it's clear musically. It's like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's paro paro tritone, and then comes the opening to the E major. That then it's not resolving in E major, but it's this. It's also clear, no, how it's written for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I totally agree.
Uh-huh.
So, more questions. Agnes Flores, again, she asks, pregunta para los dos. ¿Cuál es su top 5 de solos de orquesta que se deben tener frescos siempre para una audición? So, what is, and that's question, it's what is the top 5 of orchestral excerpts that we should have always like clear and fresh for an orchestral audition? So, Nicole?
Maybe 5 or 6, I would say, are Carmen, Brahms 4, Faun, Mendelssohn Scherzo, Beethoven, Leonore number 3, and Daphnis. That's 6, but
I would say the same one. Yes. I would maybe add, but then that's like not 5. If we can add like to say like the top ones that you for sure you will have to play, then we can add Peter and the Wolf.
I was going to say Peter and the Wolf next.
Then
William Tell, Symphonic
William Tell and Volière by SANCHEZ.
Hindemith also,
And
Symphonic.
Hindemith, yes. But the one we said for sure, you should always have like you should know by heart. That's my advice.
And know by heart doesn't mean just know the notes. It means know everything that you're in the score.
That's it. You should know by heart. For instance, again, we are going to speak maybe too much about Prelude all'Après-midi d'un phone, but it's in this solo, for instance, in Leonora Overture, it's the same. You can tell immediately if someone knows what Nicole said about the score, about the other instruments, or not. Because, come on, when we are playing this... That's it. What Nicole sang, you need to hear that in your mind because the color of the note depends on that.
Of course, absolutely. This is so. It's like how can you not? It's like preparing for a movie and you're an actress and you have no idea what the other person's lines are.
Yes.
You cannot respond appropriately. Summer, part of the recording things that I did, I recorded a lot of those orchestral excerpts, most all of those, with all of the parts, like reductions of the parts. And, even someone who knows them very well, it's like, whoa, that's going on underneath there.
Yeah.
And what was the most difficult thing to record was from L'Après-midi, the middle section, the climax section with the triplets.
Yes.
This is a nightmare. It's a nightmare to play in the orchestra, even with a conductor.
Yes.
But trying to record by myself, like listening, everything, I was like, okay. But it's so interesting and so fascinating,
Mm-hmm.
And it's I highly recommend to people for the orchestra excerpts, if you can play it with piano, or you can find like these reductions and make even these, just a recording practice of yourself with the other parts, you will learn so much. And
totally.
It's one thing to have to tune to another person, but it's a different thing to have to make all of those sounds and parts yourself,
I think it's very good, very, very good advice. I did not do, but I think I will do next time. No, but it's true, but for sure. But the thing is that we should have that super internalized in our minds, in our brain, because there are a lot of examples, and the jury will tell immediately. For instance, in Leonora, always, it's very difficult. it's very difficult to be tempo, no? Pam 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 pim, pam 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 pim, pam pam pim, pam pam pam. And if you have in mind also what the rest of the orchestra is playing in this opening, you will also have a sense. You also know that the things I played before, there are diminished chords. So then you know that it's
Yeah.
otherwise,
or, in the Brahms 4, I mean, you are three things in that solo from the part with the triplets, you know. First, you are a string player, you know.
that's it.
You know, you're a string player. Then you are tutti winds with the scale, you know. You know, and then you are solo flute. So you have to have three different kinds of sounds, you know.
That's it, totally.
In that moment, you know. So if you don't know that, I remember once I was giving a master class at a very, very, very good school, and it was an excellent student, and they played the excerpts from memory, and they were very proud about that. But I asked, okay, what does it say in the score about the tempo? I don't remember. Is there? Do you know what the dynamics are doing there? Oh, I don't remember. You know, so it's like one thing to be able to play it and memorize it, but you have to. It's useless if you don't understand the context.
Totally. I agree totally. And with Brahms, I really say always the same things you just shared, and you can feel immediately. It's like when some player, even if it's playing amazingly well, but they arrive, and they will arrive, and they will go. If you play that in the orchestra, then change suddenly.
Come up, yeah.
And
this is I always think is so interesting about that solo is that flute players, I think, tend to think of it as a slow solo. And it, of course, it's not a fast solo, but the movement is allegro, energico, and appassionato. So we have to always think. And yes, it might relax a little bit by the time, but it's not.
No. It's not like that. Yeah.
There's so many times that I've heard that, you know, and that also will say that you don't know the piece, you know, so it's very important.
Yeah, and also viva boom blah blom blim blom blim one boom dee-da-dee-da. But it's like in one before.
Yeah.
It's but I have to say just something, and it's like it happened also to me when I was young. And I think this is also because we are so much preparing like the notes and everything to be perfect, which is very needed too. But I would say that please don't forget about this other part, because it's what in the end makes sometimes a difference between the candidates. And that's it, because it's like it happened to me when I was like super young, and then sometimes I was blocked with some accept. And then by knowing, like in context, I was like, but it's beautiful. It's not like a etude, you know, because sometimes we have this feeling. I don't know, the Hindemith, for instance. Hindemith, for me, it was like.
But for me, that's completely a lyrical solo, because the moment of the music is lyrical. It's not a technical, like what's going on has nothing to do with technical. You're just kind of like decoration, you know, like a nice decoration. It's
this. Well, it's very important, because then you see you have a different perspective of it.
Yeah.
So we go on. Let's see if there are more questions.
Someone asked about the difference between American and European playing.
Go on. I'm not seeing that.
I've been told that I'm not very American typically, so maybe I'm not the best person. I mean, I think, look, the obviously European tradition of playing is old. It has more tradition because that's where the classical music comes from. So I think also the way that the European, it's more so than the style of playing, the approach to music education, where I think in Europe, you start young, not only with your instrument, but also with some other classes in regards to music, whether it be singing or harmony, solfege, things like this. This is not so much the case in the United States, unfortunately. You start with your instrument, and sometimes you get pretty okay at your instrument, and then when you're 18, you go to university, and that's when you start learning about harmony and everything. And to me, can be very problematic, because then sometimes students, it's almost like they have a crisis, because it's like they were doing everything okay. Now they're all of a sudden learning something that is a part of what they've been doing, but it's a lot to kind of digest in the moment, and then it's like overwhelming. So I think that's one big difference between the US and the in Europe. I think also which is not necessarily a bad thing, the US, I mean, Europe is into athletics when it comes to soccer, but US in general is pretty obsessed with sports. You know, we're a big sports country. You can see if you walk, especially I live in a university town, so people love the university sports, and everyone's wearing the clothes of the sports teams and all this. So I think this kind of like athleticism, like competitive athleticism, that can help to kind of raise a general level, of playing. And so I think there's a little bit of that. That's not necessarily a bad thing, even though I'm not like a sports person and all. But, in terms of the actual playing styles, I think it's generally more mixed, even in Europe, it's less now like the French is like this or the German is like this. Of course, there's going to be some of that. But in US, I think, the thing about the US is like anything. You can find the best of the best and the worst of the worst. Whether it be food, totally. Whether it be whatever. I mean, it's just, it's a very big country with a lot of different kinds of influences and cultures, and so you're going to basically find everything and anything.
Yes, I agree with you. In fact, I wanted better you to speak about that. You live there, so you know much better what's going on there. I just played there once with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. So I also got, I can understand a little bit what is the meaning of the question, but I really think that this kind of topics, as you said, it was something from maybe some years ago, much more accentuated. Like, for instance, this kind of French school or German school, like back in Europe, no? Of course it's there. Of course it's there. I for instance, I come more from the French school of playing. But it's true that I think that people would never say that I'm like 100% French. Of course, French like more when I play than others. But it's true because, of course, the basis is from there, this kind of French sound we all know. But it's not exactly. I mean, I think that nowadays we all have a lot of influences. And for instance, it's like in my case, I had also this German influence of playing more relaxed, more like that, no? But these kind of things, again, I think there were more categories from a little bit like 20, 30 years ago, maybe. And with America, I would say that flute, maybe it's not the instrument in where the differences are so important. I would say bassoon, oboe.
Oboe, for sure.
Oboe, for sure. They are the instruments that they always have like even another kind of technique, for the embouchure. I think that for the flute, it's not that. And I think that, I have played with a lot of American colleagues, and I wouldn't say that they are expecting a special kind of sound. In fact, they appreciate, basically. And I have to say, basically, that I think that sometimes as a tendency, like, I think that as a tendency, because these kind of things are like very general, no? Sure. But I can see that Americans in general, like North Americans, from United States people, let's say not America is United States, but anyway, North Americans, they can be very efficient. And they can be like very, okay, this is this, and then this is in 100, and this is this. They can be very efficient. And other people, like myself, I cannot like that, For me, it's very complicated, this. And then I think that, but then I need this. I needed that. So I needed to have this discipline, It
has its benefits and its drawbacks.
And then for me, the easy part is like, oh, okay, wow. This part, it's the easy one, Like going out of the frame, it's always very easy,
Yeah.
But I admire the frame and solid mentality that in general I can see. But what I love is when American players, they can have like a very sensitive heart and a very lot of culture, then they are amazing because they have both things.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's like when Europeans or Latin players, for instance, if you hear, let's say general, of course, but some players from Venezuela, they can play then technically very well, then it's amazing because then they have both things.
Yes.
So I think that in everywhere you need balance. So
yes, absolutely. Yes, I totally agree with you about the efficiency aspect, and and probably if there's anything, I think my general style of playing, my approach is much more like European or Latin American or whatever, but maybe not like North American. But I do have the American efficiency in terms of like my work ethic, and I can do those kinds of things. I mean, because I live in that system too, but I would tend to agree with that. I'm seeing a question from a friend, Diane. She's asking about getting, since we were talking about orchestra stuff, she's talking about getting back into taking auditions after a long hiatus, you know, after you haven't been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just say that, you know, again, anytime, and you were saying like, you know, sometimes it's like, if you play a piece that you learned when you were a student or something, you attach all these emotions and habits and feelings that you had at that time. So in a way, you have to kind of not start again, but just kind of have a fresh perspective and forget a little bit like all of those expectations you might had from before, you know. And I think everything always is with honesty. You have to kind of say, okay, if this is what I want, this is what it's going to take to get me there. So like, this is where the American efficiency maybe comes in, you know. It's like, well, I really haven't been doing this, so I need, it's like a diet or something. I need to get on a steady diet of, you know, of this. If I want to be at this place at this time, then okay. Part of it is knowing yourself and what you're capable of too. I mean, that's the other thing. And say, okay, I think I can do this, but it's going to take me this, and this, you know, with some hard work. And so that's what I would say.
Totally. Look. Of course, it depends on how long the hiatus was, of course. But I would say that, look, saying very personal thing about myself, I started to do sport during this quarantine because I was bored. Basically, I had time, no, to do this. And I have to say, I was a person that maybe I did some sports sometimes, but I was not having the routine of doing sports. If you can have the routine of starting doing sport and really running 10 kilometers, if a person can do this when you have no important injuries, because it's not the case.
Yeah.
So I think that if you have played the flute and you have done that before, it would be very easy. But just as Nicole said, you need to have the, let's say, discipline, or to have very clear in your mind that you really want to go for that. It's like stop smoking. Also, I had to stop smoking, not now, but some years ago. And it was very easy. I just wanted to stop. That's it. Then, of course, it can be difficult, you know, but then you are persistent. It's like, I don't want it anymore.
I think that's the main thing is like having the will to do so. You know, there's things that I've been to do, whether it's been getting in shape or whatever. It's like, okay, you know, as much as I love my sweets and everything, it's like, well, I got to get together now. So all of that needs to go. You know, you just have to just be honest and practical about it. Like, this is where I am and this is where I want to be, and like, let me make a strategy to get there. I think that's the most important.
It. And what I can say is that, because of course a person that it's not in the student moment of life, let's say, then maybe what I can recommend is that you can be very analytical and try to be like to have criticism, but not to be destructive. So always try to, okay, I want to do this, so I'm going to go to what I cannot do, but I know that I can do it because I'm a professional.
Yes.
So that's the thing. That's the way I will do it. And then just try. And then you have to go again into the path. But your path will be different. It will not be like before. So you have to learn again from yourself.
I mean, as musicians, we should be critical, like you're saying, but it should always be analytically critical and not judgmentally critical. And unfortunately, we go to the judgmentally critical, like, oh, I should be able to do this. Why am I not doing this? And then it takes up too much time and distraction. And you just have to say, okay, yeah, this is bad, but this is why is it bad? Okay, I'm really feeling tired in the lips. Okay, why am I feeling tired in the lips? Is it because I'm not using my air? Blah, blah, you know, and then it just kind of takes the energy away from the judgmental part.
Totally. And the good point is that now that you are, let's say, older and you have more tools, then it will be easier for you to do that. I mean, that's the good point. Maybe the bad side is that maybe you don't have so much energy, or maybe you can think like too much about things because you are more conscious. Because what I see is like sometimes people, when they do auditions and they're like 21 or 23, it's like they don't care. You know, it's like they go and they play like this and they go. This is very genuine, and this is why it works sometimes. because it's like super genuine thing. But
Yeah.
I think that also it's quite good when you can find someone that has this balance. Again, it's this balance that can go, has the experience, and also has this kind of self-control. So then it's much more special. So we don't have to be, I know a lot of musicians that they won positions when they were 40 and more than 40.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not
I
a
mean,
problem at all. You know?
I mean, it is funny that you like say that because, you know, I am someone that analyzes things a lot. I mean, that's one of my biggest strengths is I'm able to like be very critically analytical. And and there's always the danger on that side that you can get the analysis paralysis, we call it, where, you know, you're thinking too much and you just can't do anything. And especially, you know, during my younger years or student years when I was doing a lot of auditions, whether it be for summer festivals or even orchestral auditions, almost everything that I won was when I didn't know about it until maybe 20 minutes before or a day before.
I know.
Like that.
I know.
Because you just like, I know how to do this, and you show up and you do it rather than, oh, the audition, oh, I want to do this and this, I have to show this and this. No, you just trust that you know what you need to do and you show up and you do it. So sometimes for people like us who do analyze a lot, it is better not to have too much time because time can actually, you know, hinder you in that sense that you think about too many things instead of just trusting what you know to do.
Yes, and again, it's a question of hearing ourselves, knowing ourselves very well, and know what is better for everyone. Because for Nicole is this, for me also it's a little bit similar, but for other people maybe it's not like that, no? And it's like maybe they need to have everything super controlled, like they need a routine, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm eating the same every morning, I'm going for a walk at the same time, I know exactly where the concert hall is and how many feet I have to walk from the bus stop to get. Yes, then do it. If you are
That's
like that.
yes, I think that's super important. You have to know yourself and what you need. That's part of being, you know, like some people, again, at the orchestra auditions, they don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want, and I don't want to be quiet. That's going to make me nervous. I'm never sitting quiet everywhere. So I want to like be normal and speak with somebody but of course I respect that if, you know, someone else doesn't want to do that, I'm not going to disturb them. But, you know, I mean, I think it's really important that you know yourself really well. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know your tendencies of, you know, good and bad, what tends to happen. And then you can work and prepare from an honest place. Yes. Rather than I should be like this or I should be like that or this person does it like this and they were successful so I should maybe do it like that. Yes. No, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It worked for them. So you need to know what's going to work for you. Yes,
that's the most important thing. Totally, I totally agree. So we will go again ahead. Yeah, how would you prepare yourself mentally for an orchestral audition? Any tips for mental training, ratings for two young players? Yes, basically we were speaking a little bit about that, no?
Yeah. I think, you know, again, it's more of a long-term mentality. I mean, again, for me, I really try hard, like, not to think that I'm preparing for any one event, you know? I'm trying to just be prepared. And that's why I was saying when I showed up to things, I didn't prepare for the events, but I was prepared. And that's how you know if you're really prepared. So I think you mentally, if you walk into an orchestra audition having any doubts about your general preparation, whether it be the way you prepared your practice the flute or the way you understand the scores or something. So obviously someone with more experience that really knows the orchestral literature, they might go into an audition, you know, not so worried about that because they know how to do the job, they know what it takes, you know. So it's you can't maybe have that experience if you don't have the experience because everyone has to start somewhere. But these days, we really can assimilate the experience as much as possible, whether it be, you know, having access to the whole part, playing along with the orchestra and a recording all the parts yourself from a, I mean, there's so many different things that you can do to get a kind of experience, I think. So I think the mental preparation is making sure that you are understanding why they should hire you too, you know, like, and why they should hire you is because you can do the job. So if you have any doubts in your mind that you can really do the job, and it doesn't mean just play the excerpts for an audition, it means, can I sit down in this orchestra and really do this job? So to me, it's understanding what it takes to do the job and then preparing accordingly. That's part of the mental preparation for me.
Yes, and I totally agree. And then it's basically, again, because mental training, yeah, but this is something so personal. that I think it's very difficult to say, because sometimes, for instance, I am very honest, I'm not a flute player who normally worries about the beginning of the things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not someone who is going to worry about these kind of things. But sometimes for auditions, I'm really getting worried, because I know how important it is to start blah 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 blah. And sometimes I know that some like nightmare I can have is like, I have to start playing. I have to, this kind of feeling, like oh, I go there, like this. And then it's like what I do a lot of times, really, but this is very personal. I go like, okay, because I need this feeling to be very sure. So and with all the excepts the same. You know what I mean? But this is because I know myself. I know if I don't do this, then I will be nervous. Like, how I start? Like, and it's really stupid, because when I practice for a performance, I'm never practicing this. You know what I mean? But I know that in auditions, I get worried about that, especially in the ones that are with screen. In the ones that are with people seeing me, I don't care so much, because it's like, for me, the presentation is another one. You know what I mean? The presentation is like you enter and it's like, hello, how are you?
Yeah,
it's different.
The last thing I would say about the orchestra. I think my battery is getting a little low. I think the last thing I would say about the orchestra things is, I think we tend to focus on the excerpts so much, we forget sometimes about the general playing, and it's really important to make sure you're on a healthy, regimen of a lot of exercises and things, so you really can rely on your playing when you yes.
And then go to work. As I said, I just showed this example, but it's something that happens to me sometimes when I know it's like an eliminatory audition. I know that this is something that happened to me, like sometimes, like, and then how I start, I remember one I did some years ago. We had to play like the I was just working that a lot, because I knew that was the most important thing, for me. And then, of course, the other things I was relying, because I know that for me the most difficult is starting. So I don't know. It depends on everyone. I know for me it's very difficult. I'm a person who normally doesn't think so much, and then but also normally I have more than 1 minute to play. So then, if it's like that I don't like this format, obviously I think it's like, what is 1 minute to this, no? But I know that there was no other chance of us doing this kind of work. So hear yourself. I don't know. Maybe for another person it would be, no, I need to play everything, like all the program, like the days before, and I know I can play everything at any moment. Okay, great, then do this.
I mean, look, I think another really important thing is recording yourself. I mean, I am weird in the sense that, I mean, obviously everybody knows that this year I've recorded, I think, every piece written for flute, it seems like, but I obsessively listen to myself, and that's how I practice, like, because I don't have to practice doing so much anymore, the physical part, but like what I want to do, I just listen. I just listen and I go, okay. And then I listen immediately. And then I know exactly that, I was feeling when I did this that it was happening, but it wasn't enough, so I think actually listening right after you record yourself is really important to understand the relationship of how it felt to what actually happened.
Totally. In fact, look, this is what Nicole said. It's very, very important, or a nice tip, because today, for instance, I was recording this Debussy in one breath, blah, blah, blah. I was trying to do this, and I was like, but the one, like 1, 2, 3 times I could like do it nice. And I was like, but I think the sound, because I'm changing a little bit, it's a little bit dirty. And then I heard, and it's not true. Yes. It was normal. So it was more my feeling that was different. So you have to hear from outside, everything sounds less. The good parts and the bad parts. everything sounds less, you know, like.
And that's really helpful because, you know, how many times in a performance when we feel something is off, then we have a crisis. Oh my God, this is happening. And then we get so distracted by that. So we need to understand that, okay, yes, I feel this or I hear this, but actually out there is okay. And that's, you can only understand that is if you listen to yourself in that way. So I think it's, then you know how to react if you're having like one of those crises on stage. Don't react too much,
Yes.
you know? Yes.
Nicole, it's very interesting. I don't know if the Instagram video is going to cut because we are
going to stop. Yes.
But we have time maybe for, so even if it has to stop, I would just love to thank you for your time. It's amazing. I think it's very interesting. Thank you also everyone for your wonderful questions. It was very dynamic flute questions chapter, and I'm really looking forward to more. I think it's very, very, very useful, this kind of concrete format. And just the last question maybe we can have. It's like Agnes Flores again, she asks, what do you do when you have a bad sound day?
I put the flute away and I go have an ice cream cone.
That's it. That's it. That's it. It's what I was going to say. Because when my opinion is when a professional has a bad sound day, it's because something is not good in his life or her life. It's because he's tired.
You had a margarita the night before in the south,
yes,
made your lips bad.
That's it. You know, it happened during this quarantine when I was doing these colloquiums, recording these videos as Nicole was doing, like recording a lot. I could feel immediately. I mean, if I was drinking maybe a little bit of wine in the lunch, then it was totally terrible, you know, for playing, you know. And it's like, okay, then maybe I should not drink wine, you know. But it's very, I mean, because I know it's not something physical. It's just that you are not in your best physical. It's this. Absolutely. So if you're a student, Agnus, if you're a student, that's different thing, because then maybe you should work about some concrete things that we don't know. But that's another thing. That's building up your technique. But if you have your technique already built, then it's what Nicole says, go to do something you like.
Yeah, someone's saying, what flavor of ice cream? For me, it's coffee ice cream with Oreo cookie inside and in a cone. I have to have my ice cream in a cone.
Great. I am very boring for that. I'm like I'm citron, like lemon. That's it.
Yeah.
It's my but I'm not a sweet.
Lucky you.
I'm not a sweet guy. That guy. I like more salty things.
Salty stuff. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Stop and have another margarita. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
That's it. So it was amazing. It was very interesting. So again, Nicole, thanks a lot. I think that's time maybe to stop, because if we have another question, maybe it goes down. So that's it. Thanks a lot. We keep in touch. All the best for this spring. Hopefully we can get all of us enjoy more everything and the situation goes better.
Wonderful. And I look forward to seeing more of your videos as well with everyone. So thank you so much for having me, and thanks to everybody for the questions.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to everyone. Ciao, ciao.
Okay, ciao.
Have a nice evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.